Welcome everyone. People will be streaming in and we'll get started shortly. As our numbers pour in today, welcome. Okay, great. We'll get started here shortly as attendees continue to pour in today for our Lunch and Learn with Aspetuck Land Trust. Welcome to everyone as you're joining today. We'll get started shortly. Terrific. We're going to go ahead and get started. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, and welcome to the third event in the Aspetuck Land Trust Lunch and Learn series. Today's speaker is Dan Delventhal, the founder and owner of MowGreen Land Care, here to share with us his innovative, eco-friendly methods of making our lawns eco-friendly and sustainable. So I'm really excited to dig into this in just a little bit. My name is Jean Stetz-Puchalski, and I'll be the moderator of today's lecture. So before we begin, just wanted to review the use of this visual communication platform, Zoom. For people who are familiar with it, you know there's a toolbar at the bottom of the screen. For people who are not, you can find that toolbar by just taking your cursor and moving it down. You'll notice that there's a Q&A button and a chat button. Today we're going to be curating all questions. We will not be using the raise hand feature. So it invites you to pop your questions and comments into the chat and the Q&A, and we will be taking all of those questions at the end of Dan's presentation. So I'd like to introduce Mary Ellen LeMay, our Director of Landowner Engagement for Aspetuck Land Trust, to kick off today's program. Mel.
Thank you, Jean, and happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn. And a special thank you goes out to Jean Stetz-Puchalski. She's a very active Aspetuck Land Trust member and has acquired some outstanding skills moderating our events and managing our Zooms for us as a professional executive leadership coach at her company, Individual Differences. So we are very thankful to Jean for her help today. And the Aspetuck Land Trust supports Dan Delventhal and MowGreen because they offer effective alternatives to the traditional methods of land care. The Aspetuck Green Corridor encourages people to change the way they treat their yards in order to make it more welcoming and healthy for everyone. The 3 simple steps to becoming a Green Corridor partner are: plant native plants, avoid pesticides, and make your lawn sustainable. And that's why it's so important to have Dan here today to share what we can do to our lawns to make these changes. Before we get started, I would like for you to experience this 2-minute video about the Aspetuck Land Trust Green Corridor and the work that we do at the Land Trust, and how you can become a Green Corridor partner. So if you will be patient with me, I will share my screen for this quick, really, really nice video that I think you will enjoy. Okay, here we go.
Imagine a Fairfield County where the beauty of our land is preserved, where birds and insects flourish and natural species thrive, where people have more preserved lands to enjoy, drinking water is pure, and flooding is diminished. Here at Aspetuck Land Trust, we are making this happen and encouraging others to support our Green Corridor mission. Part 1 of the Green Corridor is protecting land. We are preserving strategically located land parcels in our 6-town region by either purchasing them or receiving them as donations. So far, this includes 42 parcels and over 800 acres of land. Among those are Gilberti's Farm and the Fromson Strassler property in Weston, where we are creating a 705-acre forest block on the Weston-Wilton border. Part 2 of the Green Corridor is land stewardship, encouraging homeowners to keep their backyards sustainable.
We are controlling the plants that are on our land. And right now we vastly favor giant lawns. We've got 40 million acres of lawn in this country. That's the size of New England. And particularly the way we treat our lawns, it's a deadscape. Our lawns don't provide food webs that support all the other things that we need. So what we want to do is re-landscape our yards. I suggest we cut the area of lawn in half, put in the plants that support the food webs and the pollinators, and create what we call biological corridors that connect the actual habitats so that the plants and animals in those habitats not only can move back and forth between habitats, but they can actually live outside those habitats. The Green Corridor initiative from Aspetuck Land Trust is organizing an effort to create the biological corridors that we talked about. Of course, the corridor will be much more effective if everybody joins up. If you have holes in it, that's an obstruction. And it's not hard. Put that oak tree in your yard and instead of the ginkgo, and all of a sudden you've got connectivity with migrating birds and countless other species.
We are in a critical moment in time to save our species and protect our natural lands. Insect populations have declined by 40% since the 1970s, and we've lost 3 billion birds since that time. And as population growth swells in America's suburbs, so does harmful development. Creating a greener planet starts with greener suburbs and greener backyards.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I always do. I love watching that. And I wanted to introduce our speaker today. Oops. I'm sorry, that's me. Forgot to turn the video off. Technical difficulties. I'm very proud to welcome Dan Delventhal to our lecture series today so that he can share the remarkable advances that he's made in lawn care, making it clean, green, serene, and no gasoline. With so many people working at home through the COVID epidemic in the last year, I don't think there are any of us who haven't experienced the deafening drone of the gas-powered leaf blowers that seem to plague us from morning until night. The only way I personally can get work done sometimes is to wear earbuds in the house. But it's not only the noise that these traditional lawn care methods provide, they are also unhealthy for our air, our water, and the health of our environment. So I welcome the fabulous Dan Delventhal to share with us today the cutting edge innovations that he is adding to the lawn care industry. So without further ado, Dan, you can take it away.
Why, thank you. Great to see you as always, Mel. Really appreciate it. How are we looking? Is the screen shared and everybody can hear me all right?
Fantastic, Dan.
Yes.
You are all set.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'm happy to say I got my COVID shot today. So I hope everybody's doing well and having a great day. I'm reminded of one day leaving the Bridgeport Hospital. I was in a crowded elevator and I looked around. It was so awkward. Everybody looking at the ceiling and floor, dead silent. I couldn't help but blurt out, "I just had a colonoscopy and I feel great." Well, one woman, it made her day. She said, "Thank you, I needed that." So I feel great. I got a COVID shot, and I'm so excited to be working with the Aspetuck Land Trust. And we've been at it a long time with MowGreen. Our lawn care counters climate change, and we avoid tons of pollution and noise, as well as toxins and invasives. And we're advancing, looking good. So Aspetuck is a fabulous group. Three of the leaders are revered. Bill Crakel, the president of the board, is a longtime family friend. He actually helped my nephew out over 30 years ago, getting a job opportunity in the area. It brought him into his home, gave him a place to stay. Wonderful guy. Share a birthday with him. David Brandt, happy birthday. He's amazing. He's really walking the talk, doing great things at his home. He's a customer. Mel LeMay, I've really enjoyed working with you as a customer and a partner in these activities. So hats off to Aspetuck Land Trust. We're so excited to partner in bringing sanity back to lawn care and a healthier environment for everybody. So Mel mentioned the 3 steps: plant natives, avoid pesticides, and have more sustainable lawns. And so I'll kind of work backwards through this list. MowGreen started, the main thing was to get the gas off the grass, to avoid the noise and pollution, and give athletes a chance to get outside and get some exercise too. What I learned after starting the hobby business 15 years ago was that the pollution associated with gas lawn care, in the 90s, the EPA said it was 5% or more of our air pollution. I think it's closer to 10% now. It's gotten worse, actually. And how could that be? It's because the gas that is consumed in these small lawn gear machines is 10 to 20 times more polluting per gallon than in a car. So one of our missions is to get the gas off the grass. The amazing thing is the average yard, about a 1/3 acre, that's tended with gas that uses irrigation, synthetic fertilizers, petroleum-based, is responsible for about 5 metric tons of greenhouse gases. That's like a car on the road for 12,000 miles. So it's pretty important. It's a big problem. Imagine 10% of our air pollution being reduced through better lawn care, zero emission lawn care. And that's our first mission, get the gas off the grass. Now, gas leaf blowers are the worst. So I'm constantly involved in meetings where the environmental people are trying to get me to help stand up to landscapers and turf associations who are objecting to an increasing number of blower bans, ordinances restricting blowers, the worst of all of it. And so we had a drama the other night I was on with Scarsdale. I've helped Bedford and Irvington, Croton-on-the-Hudson, a lot of towns in Westchester, Larchmont, Scarsdale, Westport, to name a few. And Anyway, so it was a drama, but Scarsdale just agreed to unanimously pass. Well, they will be next week, hopefully unanimously passing a more restrictive leaf blower ban. So here's a video about leaf blower rage. See if I can get this to work. I'm going to my Instagram. I'm going to stop it for a moment. I'm going to enlarge it and turn the sound on. And here we go. Hi, Dan Delventhal, MowGreen, clean and serene, no gasoline. I have a confession to make. 12 years ago, I thought I needed a gas blower to keep up with leaf management, so I picked up this used gas blower. And you know, I thought it could make a difference and save some time, but I used it once on my yard and it was so loud and so polluting. I put it in the shed for 12 years. I couldn't bring myself to sell it. I just wanted to retire it. And so here we are today, the one gas blower used once, sitting in the shed for 12 years. Okay, well, oh, they just turned the leaf blowers down, but it's really been a nightmare. I don't want anyone to ever use this gas leaf blower again. So it's being retired right now. Oh man, the stench in the air. They just turned them down. It was a nightmare. When I think about the noise and pollution that the gas leaf blowers make, I just go berserk.
Dad.
I'll never use this gas leaf blower again. Thank you very much. MowGreen is clean and serene, no gasoline, go electric. It'll save your blood pressure. Thank you. Well, there you have it. I'm the funniest guy I know. Oh, well, actually, let's just take a look. So I love this symbol, go electric or use a rake. Gas leaf blowers are the worst. So a little history on the company. We started in 2006 and we were trying to figure out how to cut the grass without gas. Pretty quixotic mission, people said. And we were using push reel mowers in 2006. In 2010, we invented a reel-to-reel gang kit so that we could do 33 inches or 48 inches at once. It still takes twice as long as today's electric commercial mowers. We even made hydrogen mowers. We converted combustion engines. We had a solar electrolyzer like GM's for their hydrogen car, and we went through a lot of hydrogen, but that didn't work out. Just a quick look at this reel-to-reel gang kit. This is a pretty good statement about the emissions involved with a single lawn mowing at a big yard. Let's have a look at a YouTube video. Now, granted, this is 12 years old. This is not really how we cut grass today, although I'm thinking of introducing it more into the practice where possible. Oh, full screen is unavailable. Ooh,
Jamie, thank you. Well, two local men picked one of the hottest days of the year today to take on a 4-acre yard with push mowers. They're trying to bring attention to a noise-free, gas-free way of landscaping. News 12 Connecticut's Christy Olds tells us how the business MowGreen is trying to make a difference.
When it comes to cutting your grass, there are a couple ways to look at it. There's the traditional gas-powered way, and then there's the Dan Delventhal way. In backcountry Greenwich,
I am Don Quixote, man of the MowGreen.
Dan Delventhal is a man on a mission.
To dream the impossible dream, to hope that our air can be clean. We can reduce air pollution by changing lawn care.
Delventhal and Marty Murray.
This front island over here, I'm gunning for that.
hit the ground running with a completely natural approach.
Get the gas off the grass.
Two men on the cutting edge.
Quiet, clean, and green. It's all human power, no gasoline.
Taking on 4 acres with nothing but push mowers.
Whew, that's a good start. 95 degrees, I can't wait.
Delventhal says their green methods can change the landscape.
Gasoline lawn care is 5% or more of our air pollution. About 4,000 auto mile emissions, farther than a trip to Florida and back, will be saved just today.
It's a grassroots movement to bring serenity back to every neighborhood.
This is my quest, and I'm healthy and strong. We can have cleaner air, cleaner water, and more peaceful neighborhoods. We get the gas off the grass.
Delventhal says more and more people are showing an interest in his way of cutting your front lawn. If you'd like more information, we have a link for you at news12.com. In Greenwich, I'm Christy Olds, News 12.
All right, well, that was a dream come true. At the time, I wanted to get on the news and do a really big lawn without any power except human power. And that was pretty cool. Now, this is a picture of our invention. We manufacture it here in Bridgeport out of stainless steel, U.S. steel, with a longtime family manufacturer. It's called the Reel to Reel. And Scott's, the company that makes this mower, well, they brand it, American Lawn Mower makes it. They lifted this picture off an old blog entry of mine, and they put it into their 2-minute promotional video on YouTube for the Scott's mower. So the final evolution is big, fast electric mowers, battery powered, do make us competitive with the big polluters, the commercial mowers that burn gas. And so in 2013, we went to small electric systems. Finally, in 2017, we went to large electric systems, and growth started to increase as we got more competitive. And we've been growing 30% per year for the past 7 years. It was very exciting. So we're avoiding more and more pollution and noise every year. And here is a solar canopy riding mower that's 5 feet wide and can do an acre in as quickly as a half an hour. Not that there should be any acres of grass to mow. We're all about lawn reduction. So for sustainable lawns, we're all about zero emission, and we use all battery gear. We charge with solar power, but the sun's not always shining. And so we elect 100% renewable energy on our utility bill. Anybody can do that. You pay a little bit extra, but it supports the development across the grid of renewable energy. We don't use electric vehicles yet. We have some hybrids. We actually tow big aluminum trailers with Priuses. We have some vans for better parkway access. But whatever gas we use in vehicles, we buy carbon credits to offset. So we are a carbon balanced company. I like to say we're carbon neutral, but that's we're carbon balanced. When you offset any carbon you create, you're balanced, not necessarily neutral. It's similar. And so there's no fumes at the site. Big, wonderful difference. We've won some awards, Smogathon Global Competition. I was on stage at Berkeley with the 2 winners of the global competition, somebody who innovated biochar and somebody else who innovated catalytic converter improvements, as well as an electric airplane company. I won an award, and the company won some honorable mentions from Town Vibe. We adhere to standards and are guided by CT NOFA and AGSA, American Green Zone Alliance. So we're certified Service Pro with them, and we are an accredited organic land care professional business with NOFA. And we were also a finalist in Green America's People and Planet Award. Here's a picture from a recent magazine article, Irrigation and Green Industry News, entitled Feeling the Spark. This is one of our favorite customers at the Green Village Initiative Community Gardens in Bridgeport. This is Catherine and Richard, leaders of GVI. And this is Calder McKay. This is Don Quixote, Mel LeMay. And everything we do is zero emission. We not only do blowing and mowing, but hedging, edging, trimming, sawing, pruning, aerating, dethatching, spraying, spreading, even snow blowing, all electric, all zero emission, all quiet. The tools we use are primarily Ego on the smaller stuff, small tools, MowGreen, the market leader for commercial mowers, and Works trimmers. Works trimmers are really good at detail work. So here we have a small, medium, and large mowers, Ego and MowGreen over here. Excuse me. So battery-powered equipment is 50% quieter, and that's with these days of remote working, that's a beautiful thing. I used to have a computer company called Connect Remote, and our tagline, this was in the year 2000, it was a cloud company. The tagline was more compute, less commute. And so one upside of the pandemic is people driving less and working from home. But that makes the noise issue even bigger. When it comes to gas leaf blowers, and they are the worst, they emit a low frequency sound, and the air whooshing noise also, both those types of sounds enter homes really easily. And so it really makes it brutal. And it's a victim's rights thing. People should not be using gas leaf blowers at all, which is why I volunteer so much for helping towns out to counter the resistance. Here's an example of doing a job that's normally uses gas and makes noise, but here's aerating and dethatching. We'll jump one more time to a video. It's a challenge. Let's see, we will stop it and enlarge it. And whoop, there we go. Let's get the sound on. Now this is, we're dethatching and aerating really quietly without using any gas.
You know, somebody said to me once, oh, you're trying to cut grass without gas. That's kind of quixotic. Quixotic, I thought, yeah. Don Quixote, man of La Mancha. Well, I am Don Quixote, the man of La MowGreen, and into the battle I ride. Oh, this seems like an impossible dream. Yeah, that's it. We dream the impossible dream. To hope that our air can be clean, to mow with no carbon emissions, to drink from a clear mountain stream. This is my quest, and I'm healthy and strong. It's from pushing real mowers on organic lawns, and I'm thinking it's cool to burn fat but not fuel. Let's stand up for what's right, like we're teaching in school. MowGreen real mowing and solar charged electric, clean and serene. So go green with MowGreen. We use no stinking gasoline. Thanks. Go to mowgreen.com. Nice seeing you today. Thanks for joining me. Hi, you know.
All right, that's pretty quiet, efficient work. Now, the air pollution is really a big issue, but the noise resonates more and motivates people more. But the air pollution is a big problem. If you look at just the area we work in, there are over 150,000 lawns. You know, we're in Westchester and Fairfield counties, and I'm not even talking about the entire 2 counties, but in the areas we work, there's over 150,000 lawns. That represents 800,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas. That's like 150,000 cars on the road. From an emissions perspective, that's 2 billion auto mile equivalent emissions per year. So you might say that the majority of the population are spending $500 million in Fairfield and Westchester County, at least, to pay people to come and disrupt their neighborhoods and pollute the air and even spread poisons on their properties. we'll look back on these days and shake our heads, I think. So for sustainable lawns practices, there are some things we could do with mowing to make things better. You know, the height of mowing matters. 3 or 4 inches, a better idea. You get better carbon sinking. The longer the grass is, the longer it is, it's greener. The longer it is, the healthier the roots. The frequency matters. Is if you cut less than 1/3 of that grass blade, you've got healthier roots, healthier plant. You want to avoid clumping, but you want to keep the clippings there because they provide nitrogen fertilizer. Lawn care people tend to scalp the edges when they trim, but that invites weeds. You want to trim at the same height as the mowing. And I apologize. I think I'm probably preaching to the choir. So a lot of what I'm saying, you probably already know, as Ross Perot might say. Sharpening, you've got to keep those blades sharp, better for the plants. And patterns. You know, a lot of people are addicted to the striping effect. We learned from real mowing, if you go in circles, you use momentum and you stop less often. You can get it done faster, use less energy. So circles are cool. And critter aware mowing, and you change the pattern. So if the mower's heavy, you don't make ruts. But one thing that's really great is if you can mow in a circle from the inside out or start in the middle and work your way out, that way you scare the critters out. So we're trying to formalize more and more the practice of scaring the critters off the lawn before we mow, and we're always careful and watching. And I love this one, stop, drop, and weed. I tell my guys who are mowing, keep your eyes on it. If there's some serious lawn weeds that people don't want in their grass, then stop the mower and pull them by hand before they get out of hand. If Indian Mock Strawberry and Creeping Charlie are really hard to control. This is Creeping Charlie. If this is in the lawn and there's a little patch, it's going to be a big patch soon. So grab it while there's still time.
Hey, Dan, would you unmute? Thanks so much.
How long was I muted?
2 seconds.
Oh, interesting.
You're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Watering is a big thing. The NOFA training points out that quite often watering is the problem with people who can't quite get their grass to stay healthy and their lawns looking good. Instead of frequent small drinks, it's much healthier to water once for a long time. So 1 inch per week. That's it. And the theory is that the water soaks beyond the roots and the roots follow the water and you get longer roots, healthier roots. And you only increase that amount of water. You might double it if the temperature goes above 85 degrees. Practices all about cleanup. This is a big part of the Green Corridor. Cleanup, you know, pick up sticks, maybe mow some leaves, but heavy raking should be minimized. Core aerating should be minimized because in the spring you don't want to scare up the summer weed seeds like crabgrass seeds. And ideally you hold off on beds. I have a big blog entry and it references all kinds of resources like the Aspetuck Land Trust for best practices for the critters. Now doing mulch, ideally people will wait and leave all those plants, uncut plants and leaves in their beds until May after the insects and birds are done coming out. I think sweet bees, certain kinds of tunneling bees are the last ones to emerge. So that when the soil temperature reaches, say 50 degrees for a week, then it's kind of safe. All the critters are out. Then if you really want to clear your beds, great. I think it's great just to leave down leaf mulch from the winter and just color it up if you're looking for the aesthetics of uniform darker colored mulch. And in the fall, mulch mowing leaves reduces bulk, feeds the soil, and you can supply the beds with some of those leaves. Ideally, some whole leaves go into the beds, and any excess is mulched. and maybe some more put on the beds. And ideally, you leave the plants up and the leaves in the beds for the winter. Best practices advocated by ALT and pollinator pathways and healthy yards, folks like that. So the third area of how to help support the green corridor, avoiding pesticides, is pretty important. Pesticides are endocrine disruptors, carcinogens, and they produce nerve damage. It's terrible. Pets, old people, all people, workers, nature. So synthetics are bad. And so another mission of ours is no synthetics, go organic. Synthetic fertilizers tend to run off faster and pollute the water more, and you need more of it. And about 80% of it goes into the atmosphere or the water. So it's just a raw deal. So organic's the way to go. We are NOFA accredited organic land care professionals, and we have organic solutions for fertilizer, weed killing, pH control, probiotics for the soil. It's all about making the soil healthier. Soil is dead usually if traditional chemical lawn care providers treating that grass. It's a real dead zone. We also have organic solutions for tick, mosquito, and grubs. There's a lot to talk about there where you want to try to, you want to check for grubs and understand when it's really a problem, because it's IPM, integrated pest management. It's better to have a balance and to tolerate the existence of a variety of life rather than trying to kill it all, like killing all the grubs. What would the skunks do if we killed all the grubs? So lawns are not ideal vegetation. Lawns are kind of bad for the environment. No River Wetlands program. They teach parents that when they bring their 10-year-olds on tours here in Fairfield. Beautiful program. And they talk about water basin management. So water basin managers refer to lawns as green pavement. Well, what's that about? Well, the notion is that you get runoff. The water doesn't soak in. It runs right across lawns and creates erosion and picks up pesticides and oils, things like that. So lawns are not necessarily good. So one of our other missions is less lawn mowing, more food growing. We're interested in lawn reduction, just like Doug Tallamy said at the beginning. And grass is a needy plant. It needs a lot of inputs. So when you can go with more natives, they need a lot less. And they provide a better soak up and ground cover and more food sources and better carbon sinking. And like I said already, synthetics tend to run off and they get into our water supplies. Organic treatment programs that are kind of like the other lawn treatment programs for people who want to have dominant grass in the areas they choose for their lawns. It kind of goes like this: seed, feed, weed, seed, feed, and weed. Grass needs a regular low dose of nutrition. And so it's interesting, you know, test the soil, easy on the cleanup and raking in the spring, hold off on the beds till May, do some grass seed patching, feed, weed, you know, a little weed control, overseeding in the fall, maybe aeration, dethatching. A little bit of weeding and feeding, and wintertime or sometimes year round, some deer repellent. In the winter, we even offer potassium ice melt, which is the most eco-friendly, and it's lawn food. So organic lawn care is pretty simple, and it really is all about getting the soil tested and restoring the biology to the soil. When it comes to soil testing, there's just a few metrics. We get the basic test, and we can get more extensive tests, but the basic test helps you take a look at the metrics. You want to have a decent foundation for the biology. The organic matter matters. And so ideally you'd have medium high organic matter. And the pH should be around 6.5. And the tests will tell you where you are at with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Phosphorus is regulated. You need to be growing sod or planting seed or showing a soil test where phosphorus is low to use any, because that gets into the water and wreaks havoc. In terms of nitrogen, grass needs 1.5 pounds to 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet per season. What does that mean if you're using a 10-02 fertilizer? Well, if you're taking 5 pounds per 1,000 and applying it, and it's at 10% nitrogen, that's NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, then you're applying about 0.5 pound per application. So if you use corn gluten a couple times a year, you're well on your way to your quota of nitrogen. That would be 1 pound. If you leave your grass clippings, you get another 0.5 pound per 1,000 per season. You're pretty good. We do some.
Hey, Dan, I'm just going to pop in for a moment. We're hearing a clicking, which I believe is that black headset hitting against your microphone. So perfect. Thanks for everybody on the line for being patient about that. And we'll proceed. Dan, thanks so much for that. I think people will be able to hear you a little clearly now.
Oh, clearly. Goodness. Sorry about that.
All good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. The other metrics to keep an eye on are calcium and magnesium. Soil. It's good to get a soil test every couple of years. Here's an example of a soil test from the lab in New Haven. It's a free service that the state performs. We charge for it because it takes time to take the samples and get them to the lab, and then we scan them and attach them to customer accounts, and we track those metrics to guide what we do to adjust the soil. In this sample, we look at organic matter. It says medium, could be better. pH is pretty good. 6.5 is the target. Nitrogen is showing up low, phosphorus medium high, and potassium high, calcium high. So everything looks pretty good. It depends on the time of year. But when it comes to nitrogen and potassium, you're going to do a little bit 3 or 4 times a year if you're really trying to keep that grass from struggling. So that's not so critical or alarming because you're going to do it anyway, whatever this rating says, but it is instructive. The numbers the lab puts out are normally higher because they're focused on synthetics. They figure that's what everyone's using, or at least that's how they set up originally. But when you use organic fertilizers, the numbers are much lower. And the report does come with an explanation of results and our own explanation and interpretation. In our customer relationship management application, we have a lot of custom fields and we track things. We'll track the date of the last soil sample. And based on what you do in terms of, let's say, lime to adjust pH, that will dictate where you wind up for a pH. So we actually, in each customer record, we'll track things like pH. Here's a sample customer record where we track all kinds of things like timing restrictions and how to manage their leaves. And here's the pH in the front is 5.9. So we'll take a look at that and say, oh, well, we really should do a low dose of lime to get it up closer to the target. 5.9 is tolerable, but 6.5 is the ideal. This is an eye chart for an organic program trying to consider everything. Some insect control and some weed control, fertilization, soil health, quantum growth, probiotics, kind of the main event in a lot of this. And so we created this with our own input, but it was a lot of inspiration from Green Earth Ag and Turf, our wholesaler, They're amazing, by the way, and Connecticut NOFA. But it can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot of good information here, but the same group, Green Earth Ag and Turf, that created this more complicated one originally, thought, well, let's dumb it down. Let's make it a little simpler. So you've just got 4 or 5 things that you might do. They're looking at probiotics and fertilizer, pre-emergent weed control, talking about when you apply, how much you apply. They're talking about when you do grub gone. So it's pretty simple, actually. What do we use? Here's a few of the things that we use. Corn gluten meal, 1002 pre-emergent weed control and fertilizer. Quantum growth, probiotics. You can get probiotics from compost or worm castings. For weed control, there's a Final Sun, which is, we think it's a little better than vinegar and Avenger. It's non-selective, which means it kills everything you spray it on. A lot of what you spray it on can bounce back if it's a perennial and it's feisty. So quite often people who control, let's say, walkway weeds or gravel, they'll do it every few weeks or every month. Fiesta is selective. It will actually groom broadleaf weeds in turf without killing the grass. It's an iron chelate. We use tick kills, mosquito barrier, a lot of essential oils, primarily repellents. Grub gone, which is BTG, Bacillus thuringiensis, Galilee. It doesn't harm anything. It's bacteria. Bob-X is deer repellent. There's also liquid deer repellent, mint scented, and things like that. We do mixes of grass, certified weed-free grasses. Fescue to the rescue. We mix in a little bluegrass and perennial rye, which germinates faster. We'll add dense shade mix if we're in shade trees. Now, shade trees are a bit of an issue. You could spend a fair amount of time talking about that, where people are struggling always to get grass to grow under their trees. Often it's a good idea to go with an alternative ground cover or even mulch. And in many cases, that mulch could be the droppings from the tree itself, the needles or the leaves, all the way out to the canopy. Definitely worth thinking about after we've seen, how difficult it really is to grow grass in dense shade. No invasives. We really appreciate the work of the Green Corridor, Aspetuck Land Trust. We're proud to be partners as vendors in the Green Corridor initiative. Pollinator Pathway, the Half Earth Movement, which is the same term. We need to keep half the world wild for the biodiversity. The way we're going to do that is to convince private property owners to maintain at least 70% native plants for the health of the nature around us, including us. And one way of putting it is, if we don't do that, it's possible that the food web will collapse. So one of our missions is no invasives, let's plant natives. And the importance of natives for the food web is probably everybody understands that, but it's not just about helping the insects, which helps the birds and helping the birds and having habitat, but it's also about having the food available at the right times. So bloom sequences should be continuous. And there's a lot of expertise that we're trying to develop and a lot of partners we work with, a lot of resources available from folks like Aspetuck and pollinator pathway groups to help guide and plan, and we do some of it ourselves. So our staff is aware of invasives. We aspire to help people reduce them. Keep our eyes out for crabgrass, I guess, like everybody else who's trying to keep a nice lawn area. But all around the property, we're on the lookout for stilt grass, Japanese stilt grass, creeping Charlie, Indian mock strawberry, garlic mustard. I've seen woods filled with garlic mustard. Amazingly, a lot of these plants are edible, more so than grass. Creeping Charlie, high in vitamin C and a number of other health benefits. Mock strawberry was brought here for eczema skin treatment. Garlic mustard makes a great pesto. So if you have an organic lawn and you're trying to groom out some of these invasives, it might make sense to eat them. Japanese barberry increases tick populations. Burning bush, that's winged euonymus. Bitterdock, burdock, bull thistle, phragmites. We have apps. We're trying to figure out what kind of plants we're looking at before we do anything with them. And we are trying to train everybody to reduce invasives for the good of everybody's health. So native plants need fewer inputs. Again, probably everybody here knows that. Less fertilizers. They're native. They like the way things are. More critter food, more habitat. So we want to reduce lawns. We want to have habitat restoration. And so we encourage letting it grow. A little shout out to Vic Zeminski, Let It Grow Landscapes, partner up in North Salem. Let it grow. So take areas, make them meadows, wildflower meadows. There's different approaches to meadow management. We're trying to get better and better at that, helping people with it. Expand your beds, have more middle story and ground cover, variety, native plants as opposed to lawns. There's some good turf alternatives. A lot going on with clover. We've helped people plant clover, establish it in lawns. Clover magically pulls nitrogen from the air. We help folks install gardens, less lawn mowing, more food growing. Composting's a good idea. Look at those shade tree areas as areas where maybe it won't be lawn anymore. Resource lists, we can always help. We have our own stored and we share links to them. We do aspire to help survey areas and figure out what's going to be good for birds and pollinators and how to reduce lawns, how to regenerate habitat. Try to have a continuous bloom cycle. We partner with Bill McKinney. He's always been about no invasives. Great guy. I like Harry too at Native in Fairfield, native plant specialists. Here's a look at one of our favorite customers. Really big beds. They converted a lot of lawn and back to orchards and meadow, and no chemicals. The grass is cut long, healthier. So we serve Westchester and Fairfield counties, primarily along the coastline, but as far up as Katona, North Salem, probably going to go into Ridgefield, also in the greater New Haven area. So we've got a good team. I'll just mention a few people involved. Ed Bruderman, our director, Chris Servilla is the manager, Angie Doroskowitz, our virtual office manager, Bill McKinney, as I mentioned, partners with us on he's an arborist, pesticide supervisor, certified conservation planner. We've got other wonderful partners. And oh, here's Mel. We love our customers. This is pre-COVID. I think this was the day we got together, probably 3 or 4 years back. Beautiful, beautiful back area, which is now meadow. So we've got some cool customers, advisors, partners. I just wanted to mention Aspetuck Land Trust, of course, Green Corridor Partner Program, CT NOFA, Dan Mabe, American Green Zone, Jamie Banks, Quiet Communities. She really helps with the science of helping communities get rid of the scourge of leaf blowers. Daphne Dixon, a longtime Queen of Green in Fairfield County, and then other cool customers. We're in the Sustain group. Mel LeMay, David Brandt, customers. So we have just about the business, because lawns are 20 times more polluting, and that lawn care is 5 to 10% of air pollution. We cut grass without gas. We avoid hundreds of metric tons of air pollution per year. Over 6,000 acres mowed since our inception, avoiding 7 million auto mile emission equivalents since 2006. We're a carbon neutral, carbon balanced company, and we're focused on lawn care, sustainable lawn care technologies and services. Values, cute values, they spell real. We started real mowing a long time ago, but reduction, ecology, ethics, life sustaining, respect, effectiveness, efficiency, lasting value. 4 missions I mentioned: get the gas off the grass, more food growing, less lawn mowing, no invasives, let's plant natives, no synthetics, go organic. And our vision is a national network of locally managed, centrally supported, eco-friendly lawn and garden folks. Contact is easy, mowgreen.com. We've got a blog loaded with information. And I'm Dan at mowgreen.com, and we've got an easy number, all 9s. And here's the Impossible Dream song. and it's an impossible dream to recover our ecosystem, but I think we can do it. And the fact that there's so many of you here today makes my day. It's the best part of my job, is meeting people like you. So thank you.
Dan, that's fantastic. We have quite a few questions for you today.
Yay.
So let's dig in. Starting at the top, and I know a number of these questions you may have already answered through your presentation, but we're going to go ahead and go over them in any case. So one question was about a push mower, about what is the weight of a push lawn mower?
Well, the old fashioned ones were pretty heavy. I would guess 50, 60 pounds. I still got 1 or 2 in my shed. But today's push mowers are lighter and easier to push, and they adjust higher. So they're viable. They are fairly lightweight. I called the CEO of American Lawn Manufacturing, and I said, Bob, this is so easy. I can push it with 2 fingers, 20-inch Scott's mower. Are you going to make a gang kit? He said, no. So we did. So you can push 2 or 3. You might have seen me running behind 3 of them. So they're lightweight. I would say 25 pounds for the Scotts. Other ones are lighter, probably 15 or 20.
Okay. And is the second part of this question is it okay on real grass but won't cut weeds like dandelions? Will your mower cut these? Because her mower that she's pushing right now doesn't seem to cut the weeds and the dandelions.
It's true, and that's why we have these $20,000 mowers now, these big electric mowers, to compete with the commercial providers. Real mowers take a little longer, and you have to cut the grass a little more often. So there's pros and cons to real mowing, and it's true. If you've got diversity in the lawn, often that real mower is going to roll over it and not cut it on the first pass. So yes, weeds in the lawn make it harder to use a real mower. But it's all about styles. I think rough cuts are coming back. So, quite often, which is why the reel-to-reel kit is helpful, because it gives you a little overlap. Often you have to make 2 passes to really have the surface of the lawn look like it's neat and clean. It's a little rougher. But if you detail the edges, it's amazing how nice it looks, even if the cut isn't as perfect as those rotary blades. But we do use primarily rotary blades powered by big lithium batteries now. And another.
So Dan,
just one thing about real mowers: they don't mulch leaves either. So if we can reintroduce them a little more into our practice, we would still be alternating so that we could have efficient leaf mulching.
Thanks, Dan. You have a lot of fans here today. And another question, do you service residential and commercial accounts, and do you work beyond Connecticut?
Yes, we kind of followed the environmentalists. It's funny that we landed in Katona at the awards meeting in 2016. Xenia D'Ambrosia said, well, I do edible lawns, and you you don't get it. People in Katona, they want to hire you. So I said, well, I don't want to 30 miles, man, that's tough. Of course, we avoid 600, maybe 2,500 emission mile equivalents in one day. So I did say, I'll do the 30 miles if you can get 5 or 6 customers. So we're not much outside of Connecticut. We're in Rye Brook, we're in Katona, Bedford, Pound Ridge. We're trying to grow all the time, but that's pretty much it. We may go as far as Larchmont and Scarsdale, beyond Rye. We're not there today, but we may go there this season. It's challenging. The farther you roam, the harder it is to be competitively priced. And I think people, our prices might be a hair higher than the competition. Sometimes we're right on the market. It's a mission-based business, so we try to make it affordable and competitive. But sometimes, because we pay our people more money, we try to do everything. We're trying to be the greenest lawn care company in the world. Sometimes prices are a little higher. So the farther we range, the harder it is to be viable. But I think in general, most people like organic food say, oh, I love the way you do it. If it's an extra 10 or 20%, so be it. Do it that way.
And Dan, you have that contact information on that slide you pulled up, so people can reach out to you and ask that question. So we did have a question for someone on soil testing. In Connecticut, we have a soil testing site. And the question is, would you be able to, again, tell us what that is? And since there's some people from out of Connecticut, where might they obtain a soil test?
Great. I think it comes from the state, all states caring about their agriculture, and it's extended into lawn care. So in Connecticut, there's New Haven, the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, and it's on Huntington Street, and it's easy to find online, Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station. And you can mail samples. It only takes a cup of soil, and they do that for free. Often there are, and I think there's a Windsor office. In each state, I believe there's they call it a cooperative extension office. So you can usually just search soil samples. There may be a fee sometimes out of state. I think Connecticut's generous. You can also get slightly more expanded soil tests from UConn. UConn has a lab, and there are other private labs that can tell you things like cation exchange and some of the more information on the biological activity in the soil, and those are for fees. I think Brooklyn College, as I recall, even does a test for toxins, and that's in New York. So it's very easy to find the soil testing services by state.
Fantastic. Okay, another question about advocating for pure grass and turf. One person was noticing that you were advocating for pure grass, and they say, boy, they prize their violets and clover in the lawn, and just really don't want to harm them. In fact, they want to wish to encourage them. What might you say to someone who's looking to do that? I know you addressed that in your presentation, but what do you want to talk to people about dandelions and violets and clover?
Oh, well, I can say amen. Thank you for pointing that out. We're challenged to serve people who really want grass dominance in their lawn areas, but we've always been relaxed about it. I think diversity is healthy. And so if there's diversity in the lawn and it's a native plant, we believe that's a good thing. If there's cute flowers growing, we usually mow around them. So we are all for diversity. And like I said, we'll work with people who want to add some clover, even though it's a non-native plant. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that, but it is a magic plant. Pulls nitrogen right out of the air, and the bees love it. At GVI, I remember going around weed whacking, cleaning the place up. They had a VIP visit, And I kept, based on instructions, from GBI's management, God bless them, but I kept a number of flowers, and some of those flowers were red clover. And I was amazed as I went around and I looked at those areas that I skipped. They were covered with bees. It was minutes, and the bees and other pollinators just love the native, love the flowers of clover and other native plants. So we aspire to learn about turf alternatives, low mow, low maintenance, and other native plants, and we encourage diversity. It's only our desire to please those who are kind of stuck on yesteryear's styles of lawns that we've studied and present the science so much, because I would say probably I don't know, 70% of the population still really kind of cares about looking good. I had a guy one day who had a bunch of white clover flowers, and we looked down the street, and all his neighbors' lawns were green, and we were talking about cutting length, and I said, well, if you cut it 3.5 or higher, you're going to have some of those white flowers that the honeybees love. And he says, I don't know, I'm torn. He says, I don't look like my neighbors, so I don't know if I want you to cut it at 3 inches so I look like my neighbors, or cut it at 3.5 so I can feed the bees. It's funny.
Sounds like that's a conversation you have with homeowners before you work with them. So that's great.
Yeah.
So there are a number of questions here, and we will be going on for about another 15 minutes. And here's one for you. What are the prospects for blower restrictions in Fairfield?
Good question. I would have to check in with Sustainable Fairfield. I used to be a lot more involved with the Earth Day gang and the Sustainable Fairfield and volunteering with the Clean Energy Committee, things like that. But MowGreen became busier and busier, and chasing the details of 30% growth. I kind of let go and realized, no, this is where I make my contribution. I've got to focus on it. So I'm less connected. So I'm not quite sure where initiatives stand, but I know that if the Sustainable Fairfield folks had their way, we'd be introducing an ordinance right away. I'm not sure where it stands, but I am certainly ready to help. There was a big municipal lawn care contract that came up a year ago, and I did I quoted on it. Some of the requirements were unusual, very big specialized equipment, AstroTurf management, big field machines. So we did not win it, but I took the opportunity to make it educational. So I provided public record of as much feedback as I could give. They were still recommending chemicals to my disdain. Unfortunate, but I think things are moving in the right direction in Fairfield. But amazingly, there's been no initiative raised so far for an ordinance. I know Greenwich tried like crazy. Greenwich Coalition Against Leaf Blower Mania. 10 years ago, they were at it, and they didn't make it, surprisingly. But we tried to help them too. And the way we help is we show up at meetings and we counter the pushback from gas-oriented landscapers. Nobody wants to change a thing, but America's advantage is the ability to innovate. That's what China wishes they could emulate. And so everybody's the status quo protector, but what makes us great is our ability to innovate and change. And so we do want to change. So none of the landscapers want to change, and they claim that electric tools can't do the job. And so my role quite often is coming to these meetings and saying, whoa, time out. I do 50 or 60 acres a week. I not only use electric blowers, but I use all electric equipment. Everything I do is electric, and the electric blowers are capable. And so it's and besides, most of these bans are trying to ban gas leaf blowers when they're not even necessary. You know, in the summer months, they allow them, and quite often in the fall months. Sometimes they outlaw gas and electric leaf blowers, which is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You know, the electric, yeah, sure, blowers aren't that good in general. There's some things they do that are bad, you know, particulate matter. But the difference between gas leaf blowers and electric is extreme. So if you know, the step in the right direction is get rid of the gas leaf blower and allow electric blowers.
Mm. Dan, you mentioned something about landscapers. We actually have some landscapers who are on with us today, and they're interested in using green equipment, but concerned about the cost of transitioning, or that they'll have to raise their prices for customers. Well, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say look at the long term and think about loyalty, customer loyalty. A lot of customers love their landscapers and they're loyal, so they're torn. But they know that the landscapers are not doing the right thing. They're not using the right equipment anymore. It's just not a good idea. So advice to landscapers would be consider the finances and think long term, because there actually is, other than switching costs, you know, the effort you have to go through to change, there's actually no reason for it to be more expensive. And so it's capital intensive. However, there's a lot of 0% financing alternatives. So if you look at fuel savings and maintenance savings on a highly utilized piece of commercial gear, if you're in the business, then you can go electric and use that gear and get a return on investment. The return on investment is about 20%. So actually, a landscaper whose jaw is on the floor from sticker shock over a $30,000 price tag on a big commercial mower that runs on battery all day long, it can be assuaged by the consideration that they're going to make 20% return on that investment. They're going to break even in 4 or 5 years, and 6, 7 years out, they're going to be in the money, making money. Even if 7 years out, even if somebody had given them a gasoline powered unit similar, they would still be spending more money in that 7-year stretch. So the total cost of ownership is lower, and the repair shops, the large retail outlets that sell this gear say they're like, what's happening to our repair business? We're a little concerned about this. There isn't a lot of work and there aren't a lot of fees involved. So it's capital intensive. It requires a little bit of switching, but really when it comes down to it, it shouldn't cost more. So maybe a little more. And I think people are willing to pay for it, pay a little bit more. And the last thought is, what about doing the right thing? What about the severe weather situation? Are you going to be a fair weather friend to the climate problem we've got? What is that going to do for your loyalty? How long are your customers going to keep you with your current practices, with your old polluting gear, with the aggravation you create? There's a lot of companies like ours coming around, and they want your customers. So if you don't make the change, if you don't start today, then we're waiting in line to take that customer, and you'll deserve to keep that customer if you start changing today. If you wait 3 years, 4 years for the laws to catch up with the ethics, if you wait to make the investment for the prices to come down, there's no reason for that customer to stay with you.
So Dan, let's shift a little bit to homeowners now. We have quite a few questions about specific recommendations for small electric mowers and trimmers for the homeowner. What would be your advice?
Yeah, get a line that has a common battery format, and do a little bit of homework and read up, see what's in vogue, see what the latest rankings are. And it's interesting. Usually the first tool you buy dictates the rest of the tools you buy, because it's really smart, especially with small tools. It's really smart to have a common battery that fits in all the tools. So, it would be nice if there were an American manufacturer leading the way in this. DR Power is one that comes to mind that Generac just bought. Generac is an American-owned company. So I might look at DR Power. Now, today I use Ego. The Ego line used to be at Home Depot. It's no longer at Home Depot. Now it's at Lowe's and Ace Hardware. But for small tools, Ego is a great platform, and they have really good battery technology. So I started with Works. Works is another good company. So I don't think you can go wrong with Works or Ego. We use Works today. We've got a lot of batteries that fit those, but Ego is our primary platform because the batteries fit everything: the blowers, trimmers, hedgers, pole saw, pruners, chainsaws, snow blowers, mowers, small mowers. And but take a look at DR Power. They're at least an American-owned company. Ego is Chinese-owned. Greenworks is Chinese-owned, and we're happy to use the market leader, Mean Green, for the commercial mowers, and they are American-owned, which is kind of cool. Greenworks is their primary competitor, and they're Chinese-owned. So I just think better for the country, possibly less shipping, better technical support, better economy. If you can go American-owned.
Thanks for that. So a couple of other questions. One is, what do you think about corn gluten meal as a weed prevention in the spring?
I think it's a good weed prevention for the spring. It works two ways. We use it, and university studies show on lawns, if you use it fairly consistently and you use the right amount at the right times, spring and fall, or late summer, if you will, then if you continue for 2 or 3 years, it's 80 or 90% effective. But it's a little tricky, and you have to be patient. So we've actually lost a couple customers who were really addicted to the old styles of lawns, and they wanted perfect crabgrass-free lawns. It wasn't quick enough, didn't change fast enough for them. And I know one organic leader, Chip Osborne, he makes a single exception for a product called Tenacity. It's mesotrione. It doesn't affect any mammalian systems. So that's one chemical that an organic leader makes an exception for. And we have once or twice in extreme situations. I guess everybody does. Even Aspetuck Land Trust makes some exceptions for large scale control issues. But corn gluten meal is a good thing. It's a 2-for-1 value proposition. You not only shunt new seed growth, but you get a slow organic fertilizer. So you're actually building organic matter. You're fertilizing slowly over time, and you're preventing broadleaf weeds. And I'm actually hearing from the Branch Creek, one of the suppliers of the 1002 corn gluten meal, that you can plant grass while you're using corn gluten meal to suppress broadleaf weeds. Allegedly, because there's one of the actions that the corn gluten does, besides drying and this protein reaction against broadleaf weeds, it affects the hairs of the germinating seeds, or the hairs on the seeds, but the grass seed doesn't have those, so it's unaffected. So the jury's out on that. All over the internet, it says, don't do grass seed if you're using corn gluten. Get your grass rolling before you do your corn gluten. But I'm hearing that you can actually plant grass and suppress broadleaf weeds with corn gluten, and we use it, and because of the fertilizer aspect, and it's difficult to time it. You want to get it when the soil temperature is just right for crabgrass. You want to get it down a little bit before that, because it needs to get wet once, so it can create a little bit of a film. And then once it dries, then it starts drying and doing its thing. And it can wash away too. That's why it's so tricky. So because it's only about a half a pound, 5 pounds per thousand, 1002, only about a half a pound of nitrogen per 1,000 feet each time. And it's difficult to time it and all. We suggest doing it a couple times in spring. Why not? maybe mid-April and mid-May. So you get 60 days allegedly of weed protection, weed suppression, pre-emergent. And then again, late summer, you get another 30 days. But at the same time, you get that 1.5 pound quota, a couple of pounds of nitrogen, it really makes your grass look good. So I think corn gluten meal is a cornerstone of organic lawn care. And it's a good weed suppressor even in gardening.
So another question going back to battery powered mowers. Any suggestions for maintenance of battery powered mowers?
Well, there's surprisingly low maintenance, but it's helpful to keep the deck clear so that there's no extra stress on the motor. It's helpful not to, to avoid sticks and rocks. Cut long. It's easier to miss things. Keep the blade sharp, less wear and tear on the motor. Failures are often, keys that strip and stop the blade from spinning if you hit something that really stops it, or motors wearing out. The battery maintenance is important. There's usually guidance on that, but lithium batteries don't like to be charged to the top if they're going to sit idle, and they don't like being discharged all the way to the bottom. It's not good for the battery. You shorten the battery life. They don't like being charged in the cold, in freezing temperatures. So when you're storing that lithium battery in the off season, which kind of unique to New England, but storing that lithium battery, it's important to know what the charge state is that's ideal for storage. And batteries are usually a big issue with mowers. So often people have mowers that work, but the batteries are no good. Maybe it's an older mower, they can't find the battery anymore. So I can't think of anything else for maintenance. If there's any grease fittings, a little lubrication.
Thanks, Dan. Couple questions here about large condo associations. Are any of your customers in Westchester County or outside of Westchester County large condo associations?
Yes, it's interesting. I went full time, hung up my IT cleats in 2017. I went full time just 4 years ago. And so it was a little bit of a struggle coming up, building up the business. We really had one condo association, and they loved the lack of noise, but at some point, a few years into it, they successfully, the forces there on the board successfully swung the business to a gas provider who was hundreds of dollars less money, and it was a friend. And so we actually lost that account. I've talked to condo associations, actually one in Roslyn, New York area, with 300 units, and they're really trying to go zero emission. But so far, we don't have a lot of properties like that, but we should, and we welcome it.
So a little shift over to a question about a participant that has about a 50-foot pond down from a large lawn, and they're trying to transform it into a meadow. And the question is about specifically tick kills. Is tick kills toxic to kois?
I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure, and I never say I'm sure if I'm not. It always pays to go read the label on the pesticide, the organic pesticides included. From what I understand, it's primarily cedar oil. So I don't, and of course it's a very light spray, and it dries in 1 hour. So if you spray a lawn with tick kills, that's going to dry in 1 hour. So I don't think any of it's going to reach the water, and I don't think it would threaten the kois. There's a natural derivative called something propitianate. There's an active ingredient that actually kills ticks while it's wet. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to be pretty sloppy for any of that to wind up in the water, and for any of it to actually affect wildlife in the water. Probably the advice says keep it away from any water sources, because that's the way to handle it. some of the people that spray for, we use battery powered backpack sprayers, and we're careful. We try not to spray anything that moves because you can't see ticks anyways. And they claim it's safe for butterflies and bees, but we wouldn't spray them if we could avoid them. And I did notice my own property. I got Lyme 7 times. That's why I adopted it. But I did notice the dogs didn't have any more ticks. And within 2 or 3 days, the fireflies were everywhere. And it seemed like the insect life, diverse life, was good. But we try to teach people, don't spray anything that you can see, any insects that you can see, because there's no point in that. And because it is a broad spectrum killer.
Dan, we're going to round it out with 2 final questions for you before we close out today. The first being, are there any good battery-powered reel mowers?
Oh, interesting question. I know people who have converted their old lock mowers to run off battery. And actually, I was talking with a group at New Haven, the New Haven Entrepreneurial Institute, part of Yale. Actually, Yale Entrepreneurial Institute. And interestingly enough, they had a project called Green Mow. And that's exactly what it was, a residential oriented battery powered reel mower. Don't know where that stands. I've been out of touch with them for a couple of years. I do not know of battery powered reel mowers that are commercially offered today. But they're very easy to push, and the reel to reel is a great exercise system. You can go from 1 to 2 to 3 and then back down. Do supersets.
So thank you for that. And one last question here, actually 2. One other one just popped up. People are interested in native ground cover in our area. What advice would you give them?
To connect with us so that we can gather resources. I'm a little light in my shoes on that subject. I've looked at a number of things, creeping thyme, clover, buffalo grass, sedges. So I usually do some Googling and talk with providers, folks like Native and others. So yeah, I don't really have a go-to ground cover. Once I even supplied somebody with Appalachian Barren strawberry, which now mock strawberry is the scourge of lawns because you can't control it and it takes over, and yet the Appalachian Barren strawberry looks a lot like it. It's bigger, it's less aggressive, but it's actually a good native ground cover. And so I actually supplied those as native ground cover for a bank. A place that was overrun with Bishop's goutweed. Was terrible. But that's, yeah, so it depends on the situation. So it's good, get some lists, get some opinions, let us do a little homework. Happy to help, but I don't have any kind of go-to spiel to lay down on that subject.
Well, Dan, thanks for that. And also, we're going to be turning this over to Mel in just a moment to talk about the Aspetuck Land Trust native plant sale and some of the resources people can point to there as well. So the final question really on everybody's mind is, what can they expect when moving from an emission-based service to a service as you provide in terms of price increase, realistically?
Realistically, 5 to 10%, maybe 15%. Good example. I don't quite understand it because it's hard to make a livable wage as a lawn care worker, and it's also hard to make a livable wage as a lawn care owner. If you keep it really small and get all the customers side by side, that's one thing. Or if you make it really big and still maintain good density, that's another. But I don't understand. And all the price pressure is tough, really tough. It's not practical. But so I don't understand. There's some really big lawns where people say, I'll mow it, trim it, clean it up, $65. Well, wait a minute, it's an acre and a half. How do you do that? And a business needs to make $45 or $50 an hour so that it can pay for overhead and insurances and vehicles and all the trappings of a business, and pay a livable wage to the workers. We pay a little more. I think average lawn care 11 to 17. Our average comp for employees is more like 17 to 25 with some incentives and bonuses and things. So it's hard to make it go. And so a good example, 50,000 square foot lawn. People still talk about numbers like 65, 70, 75, but we know it's going to take over 2 hours to go in and do a good job with it. So what's the difference? We might try $85 or $90. So it could be a 20% delta.
And Dan, it sounds like, we have your contact information here for people to reach out and really understand what that means when working with you. So it's exciting that you've provided that for us today. And with that, we'd like to shift over back to Mel. And Dan, thank you so much for just an incredible opportunity, not only to meet you, but also to share just your wisdom with everyone here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Jean, and everybody.
Great. Thank you, Dan. That was wonderful. I just, his business has been amazing, and there's nobody else I would have mow my lawn other than Dan, because I truly know that he does rescue the frogs out of my lawn. It happen, and he does pull the weeds out by hand. So that was a great talk. I love the phrase that clover is not native, but it is magic. That is just great. And if the question about the native ground cover is so important because, and I'd love to work with Dan on this, we're testing out a bee lawn concept at Haskins Preserve in Westport. And it will be a lawn, but it will have native ground cover like our native violets, some of those wild strawberries that Dan mentioned, and something called self-heal. So the lawn will actually look like a jewel box because there'll be so many colors integrated into it. So, let's, Dan and I will work on that lawn together, and hopefully he can practice at Haskins and then begin to roll out the bee lawn to his customers. So I encourage everyone to go to our website at aspetucklandtrust.org. This lecture, along with our other Lunch and Learn lectures, have all been recorded and they are on that website. Look for our other events. We have another one coming up next Wednesday with our friends at Wildlife in Crisis. They're going to be talking about the spring babies that we're going to see in our backyard. So, just to what to watch for and what to do when you see them. And also sign up and become a Green Corridor partner. I truly appreciate Dan's plugging the Green Corridor, and he lives it every day. So Dan, is it okay if folks reach out to you privately if they have some additional questions using your website?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's great.
Happy to help. Even people in the lawn care business who have questions. It's a mission-based business.
That's great. And I wish Westport good luck on hopefully one of the first ordinances in our area for green lawn care and restricting these gas blowers. So thanks for everybody for your support. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. You can have your glass of Guinness now. It's good for you. And again, thanks, Dan, for a fabulous Lunch and Learn. Appreciate it. And Jean, too, for your skills in moderating. Thank you. Have a great day,
My pleasure.
everybody.
Thanks. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.